In this video, I'm joined by 4 amazing players to discuss the upcoming Worlds meta. This is a really great interview. There's a lot of great insight about what you should play, what you should be prepared to play, and I think you're really going to enjoy the video. So here we go. Hey, this is Seagrove. Today I'm joined by some OK players, and we're going to be talking about Worlds and the Worlds meta. So if you guys like content like this, go ahead and subscribe. But before we get into it, we're going to do some introductions for any of you all who do not know any of them. Mikey, why don't you go ahead and start?
Hey guys, my name is Mike Fouchet from the Northeast in the U.S. I rate for 6 prizes, and I've been playing for a long time. And here to talk about mostly day one, because that is what I have qualified for.
All right. Tord, go ahead.
Hey, my name is Tord. I'm from Norway. I've been playing for a long time as well.
Very good. Joe, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Joe Ruettiger. I haven't been playing for as long as any of the people here, but I'm doing okay this season.
It's funny because of how much younger you are.
It's funny because Pram's been playing longer than you've been alive, I think.
I think he has.
At the very least, it may have been like when you were born. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Probably.
good. And Pram, go ahead.
So I've been playing a really long time as well. I haven't won as many internationals as Tord here, but trying my best. And
We'll get there one day.
Maybe not. I don't know. At the very least, 2 in 1 season is pretty nutty, and then the finals to go with it. So that was really cool to see.
For sure. All right, so we're gonna hop right into this. Mike, you are the day 1 into day 2 man. So I wanted to speak with you on more general terms about that. How does day 1 meta tend to compare to day 2 meta? Is day 2 almost very similar? Are there often new decks in day 2 that we aren't seeing in day 1? Talk about that.
I wouldn't. Sometimes there's new decks that are in day 2, but I wouldn't say there's like a real big difference. I do think that a lot of the day 2 players tend to base their deck choice off what happens day 1. Like they might have like two decks that they're kind of choosing from, and they'll wait to see what happens on day 1, and then they'll kind of make their choice based on that. I'm sure some people are 100% decided already before day 1. You know, if they have a really good deck, like I'm sure like Sam Huff, for example, I don't remember if he went day 1 to day 2 the year that he top forward, but if he was just day 2, I'm sure he was like set on that deck no matter what happened.
What deck was that?
It was like the Vileplume toolbox deck.
Okay.
The year that Mega Audino won.
Okay.
I'm sure the Mega Audino guy was like set on his Mega deck.
Right.
And another thing is that, like, even if there are weird decks that make it through day 1 into day 2, people take those into account, but they don't, like, I don't know. I don't think there's, like, a big target on their backs because there's so many people that moved on from day 1 to day 2. Like, 2 years ago, I did day 1 to day 2 with the exact same deck that Ross ended up getting top 4 with, the Vespiquen Tall Auxiliary deck. Mm-hmm. And, like, nobody looked at my deck and was like, oh, I got to counter that.
Yeah.
Like everyone was still focused on beating Night March and whatnot. Kind of the same thing last year with the Galesopod Gardevoir from the Japanese players. Like a couple of them made it through from day 1 to day 2, but still nobody was going to change their deck based on, you know, that specific deck. So I think most players still generally choose their deck based on what they were expecting going into day 1. The only other thing I'll say is that most day 1 players stick with their same deck going from day 1 to day 2. So if you have the knowledge of what decks have moved on from day 1 to day 2, I think that does help your decision a lot.
Okay. This is for Pram and Tord. For watching people come into day 2 from day 1, how much does that influence? I know both of you guys have been day 2 before. How much does that influence what cards you put in your deck? Or your deck choice? Does that ever influence it? Or if so, how much? Tord, why don't you start?
Usually I don't really care unless there's like something crazy going on, but that haven't been the case so far. So I usually don't really care and just play what I'm set to play anyway.
Do you ever change a card or 2 cards based on it?
Like if you are wondering about your last deck card and you see a crazy amount of a certain deck making it through, and then of course you go for the tech card that's good against that deck, for example. But like usually there's not too much more than that to pick up from it.
Okay. Pram, go ahead.
Yeah, so what I like to do sometimes, if I'm in like a big group, is I like to send my deck through the gauntlet of day 1.
Okay.
And then if it does well, then I'll definitely play it. If it doesn't, then I need to reevaluate what I'm doing.
Okay.
like analyze why it lost, and then like, is the idea just not good for the meta? Things like that.
Okay.
But if I'm with a smaller group, then I almost like something crazy comes out, then I just play what I want to play.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I
yeah.
hop in and give an example?
For
So
sure.
like last year I made it through day 1 with Guardy, and a good amount of Mega Ray made it through day 1 as well. And I didn't end up doing it, but I was really, really close to just changing 1 card in my Guardy list and include the Sudowoodo Roadblock to help that matchup.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like it was going to be popular enough, but I was really, really close to doing it. So that's kind of one example.
Were you glad you didn't?
I did play against 1 Mega Ray and lost, so. But overall, like, I don't know, it probably wouldn't have been worth it.
Okay. So Joe, here's a question for you. We saw Buzz do super, super well 2 internationals ago, and it had so much hype going into NAIC, and then its highest placement, I believe, was 12th, with Ahmed playing 1 blower. What do you think about Buzz's placement in the current meta, going into 4 worlds, obviously? And do you think it needs blowers? And if so, should it be 1 or 2? That's a lot, but.
What was the first part again?
So, how do you think Buzz is? Do you think NAIC was representative of Buzz's place in the world's meta, with its top placement being 12th, despite being played by a number of top players?
No, I think Buzz is still really good. I just don't think a lot of players played it. Like, the only people I know that played it were Pram and Ahmed. What was the next part of the question?
So it had
This
1
is a lot.
blower in it. Yeah, that was a lot. Sorry about that. It had 1 blower in it. Do you think a blower is necessary? Do you think 2 is necessary? What do you think about that?
I don't know. I haven't played the Zoroark weakness policy versus Buzzwole matchup that much, so I actually don't know if you need the blower or not to like actually beat him. I don't think you do, but you might. It's hard to tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tord, what are your thoughts on the blowers in Buzzwole?
I feel like 1 and 2 are like super random. So I would honestly play like 3. So you can actually get them when you need them. And then you have answers for Garb. You can discard float stones. Like, just a lot of usages if you can cram them in.
You would play 3, you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
3.
That's a lot.
So they're less random.
Yeah, I get that. Mike, go ahead.
I think if I was going to play them, I kind of agree that I would play 3, but I'd rather just play 0, I think. For kind of one of the reasons that Tord just said is that you have no way to search them out. You're not a Zoroark deck. You can't puzzle them back or anything. So, yeah, you're not usually going to have them when you need them. Second of all the matchups that they're good in, you're already favored. Like, you're slightly favored against Zoroark Macargo especially if they're only running 1 weakness policy. You're already favored against Zoroark Gardevoir. You're favored against Rayquaza. Even though the field blower is helpful against all those decks, you're already kind of a favorite anyway. So to me, they just seem like win more cards, and they're also dead a lot of the time. So I'd rather just play more consistency.
Yeah. Pram, do you have anything to add to that, or is that good?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather just. I think I just play 0, just because you're favored against most of the Zoroark decks. Like, the only one that helps versus is Gardevoir for the most part. But I think you're already like you're still like favored in that matchup, just not like a whole lot. It's just like it's pretty close to 50-50, it feels like.
Okay.
But at that point, you just rather have consistency cards because like their game plan is going to be like Garbotoxin N, and then you're just going to be like, okay, I'm already at like 3 to 4 2 prizes. So what are the odds I draw this one field blower
Right.
that I've been saving around the entire time that I didn't have
Exactly.
to also not Sycamore. So
For sure. All right, so what do you guys think about Ray? This has been a pretty polarizing deck, it seems. Is Ray good? Yes or no? Mikey.
Yes, I think Ray is good. I don't think it's the best deck, but I do think it's pretty strong.
Okay. Pramawat, yes or no? Ray is good.
Ray is good. It has all the things it needs to be good. It energy accelerates. It does a lot of damage. Like those two on its own are already just powerhouse. It goes through the deck. So and then there's a lot of recovery cards in the format right now. So that's not a big problem. And I like the addition of Gardevoir in the deck, which helps its late game. So I think Ray's good.
Joe.
Ray's good.
Tord.
Yeah, it's strong. It's kind of linear. You don't really have a lot of plays, but it's really strong, and you should be prepared.
Okay. Joe, what is the best version of Rayquaza?
Just straight Ray.
Straight Ray. Okay.
Yeah.
Mikey, what do you think?
Well, so I would agree with Prem that I think Gardevoir, it's still a very linear deck, but it at least gives it some dimension of complexity. It's actually interesting because you can play Rayquaza Garb, and then you still have like the last couple spots that you need to fill out. So like you could play Parallels in there to help you. You could play Blowers. I don't think Blowers are very good, but I think Parallels are pretty good. You could play Batons. You could play red cards. We've seen that just for like some added disruption as well.
Yeah.
I think Rayquaza Garb is the best version, the most well-rounded.
And what does Garb do for the deck?
I think Zoroark actually, especially like Zoroark Macargo with the Sylveon, can actually beat the Straight Ray more times than not because they can just they have more freedom to like search out the Sylveon and whatnot. But with Rayquaza Garb, you put the initial pressure on, and then you have Garbotoxin with either N or red card to put them to a low hand. So it forced them to have Blower and then whatever they need to knock stuff out. So I think it just gives it that extra push to really be favored against Zoroark decks.
Okay. Tord, what do you think about do you agree with Pram that Ray Garb is the best version?
I really like it super straight, like super aggro. It gives you a more favorable matchup if you face other Rays.
Yeah.
So if you go the Garb version to try to have even better versions to get other stuff, and then just face a straight Ray, and then in the mirror, just whoever gets the first KO wins. Like if you can get the turn 2 KO on upon Stingray, you just flat out win oftentimes.
Mm-hmm.
You just struggle so much keeping up. So I don't know. I like consistency as always. So just a straight one. You're a little weaker to Trash Launch, but it doesn't really matter that much. Just go through everything and smash and take the game before your opponent blinks.
Okay. So it might depend on how much Ray you expect to see, which is kind of interesting. So let's get into this question. I've been thinking about testing groups, and it seems that in the past there have been like a little bit of a breakdown of walls, especially within a region for testing groups. Is that a thing? I mean, I know there's already a lot of shared information at the top anyways, but within like it seems like Japan will always come with the surprise deck. And then a lot of times it seems like groups that don't normally test together within a region will start testing together. Is that the case? Mikey, I'll let you speak to that.
I don't know. It's hard for me to say outside of the US, but I will say the Japanese, I don't think are quite as unified as some people think.
Okay.
I do think there's like a group of top Japanese players that come and all kind of play the same thing, but I think there's like a lot of Japanese players that don't that are not kind of privy to that information necessarily. Like there was the group that played the Ho-Oh deck last year, but then there was the group that played Galissapod Garbodor, and there was a bunch of others that played kind of things that we were a little bit more prepared for. Like I played against a Japanese guy with Decidueye Ninetales, for example. So I do think more similar to the US, there are different groups within Japanese. And I think this year, I think it maybe is a little bit different since there's so many more people that have qualified for Worlds. I don't know how much intermingling has been done, at least preparing for the tournament. I do think once you get to Worlds, it's a little bit different because if you're friends with, even like tangentially friends with people, you're more likely to kind of talk to them and figure stuff out. But I haven't experienced it too much over the internet this year.
Okay. Tord, what's Europe like in terms of that? It seems you guys are already working together a lot in, at least a lot of top players in internationals. Do you feel like your testing group grows for Worlds, or is it pretty much the same people?
No, it's basically the same group as always.
Okay.
Doesn't really change much.
All right. Well, let's get back into decks. So, Pram, what is your favorite Zoroark variant, or which do you think is the strongest for this tournament?
I think my favorite to play is Zoroark Macargo, just because it's so fun to like basically cheating the entire game. But I think maybe the best one is maybe Garb. Yeah, just because it Trash Lance is so good, and then Rayquaza does so many items, and Macargo has also a ton of items. So like it's hard to play around Trash Lance when like over a third of your deck is items.
Yeah.
So that one might be most positioned for the tournament, but people know that, so it's like they could just change the way they build decks, and then Trash Lance becomes way worse.
Yeah. Joe, what's your favorite Zoroark variant for the tournament?
Have to agree with Pram, Zoroark Garb. It's just so strong, and it's not linear at all. It has a lot of options.
Cool. Mike?
I don't know. I've played a bunch of both. I probably would, if I had to pick between those two, I'd probably play Zoroark Garbodor, but I really don't know. I think it's just a little bit more it's hard to say. It's a little bit more well-rounded, I think, in its matchups. But I've been trying like a lot of other Zoroark decks, like Zoroark Gallade. I've tried Zoroark Gardevoir. I don't like that as much. I think Zoroark and just Gallade, I think, is pretty good though right now. I've tried like Zoroark Duskmane Necrozma. That one's okay. Probably not as good as Zoroark Garb though. Zoroark Gallade's pretty good. I think that's the only other Zoroark deck that I think is actually pretty solid.
Okay. Tord, what's your favorite Zoroark variant?
Macargo.
Okay.
Like the smooth trading is amazing. Really like that.
Okay.
So you can do whatever you want every single turn. There's like no RNG once Macargo is on the field. You basically play chess at that point, and that's really fun.
Yeah. Very cool. So let's look at. We did the two big aggro decks, but we haven't talked about other Zoroark variants. Basically, everyone said Macargo or Garb. Older decks, like especially Zoroark, seems to be making a bit of a comeback, and even Zoropod to an extent. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Mikey, why don't you start? Zoroark and Zoropod.
I think Zoropod's okay, mostly because you have an immediate response to Lycanroc, which I think is the bane of the other Zoroark decks. But I think Zoroark's still probably pretty bad. Even if you're playing basic fighting energy, it's still probably going to lose to Zoroark Macargo. Like, if you ever attack with Lycanroc, they'll just go Flare Gun, Enhance Hammer, and then your Lycanroc's just stuck there. So I definitely don't like Zoroark Lycanroc. I think Zoropod with an Oranguru and Delinquent and whatnot, like Joe and Jimmy played, but just put an Oranguru in, that's probably still pretty good.
Okay. Tord, what do you think of Zoroark and Zoropod?
They're both fine, as they've always been. But they're kind of in a weird position right now, with the other two Zoroark decks running around. So I know Zoroark is fine. Can target down Gardevoirs all day, which is really nice, even though you're paralleled.
Mhm.
And Lycanroc is always good against Zoroark, but everyone knows how to deal with Lycanroc now. You just smash and hammer and a flagrant on them, and they're just like doing nothing. So I don't know. I still really like my cargo.
Okay. Joe or Pram, do either of you guys like Zoroark at the moment? All right.
Yep. I mean, it's just like it gets energy removal too hard. Like it really needs to stick an energy on the field, and it just can't. Like not reliable. And then like if you don't want to get enhanced hammered, you have to start running basic energies, and then that's annoying because your damage output gets lower. Yeah. But then like even if you put the basic energy on like a Lycanroc, if you're ahead on if you're winning the game, then you get counter catch or flare grunted and you lose. So it's like it's really annoying.
You can even just counter catch or hit it, and you don't
Yeah.
even have to flagrant it.
Yeah, I mean like
Who's
there's
my
too many
hits?
there's too many ways to deal with Lycanroc.
Okay.
Whereas Pod is a little bit better because it can just plop an energy down and not really care whether it gets flare grunted or not. I mean, it wants to keep the energy, obviously, but you know, it's less hurt by flare grunts and counter catchers.
Okay. So let's get into Gardevoir. I know Mikey is a fellow Gardevoir enthusiast, so we'll end with Mikey. Joe, why don't you start? What do you think of Gardevoir, good or bad?
Straight guard.
Yeah.
I think Gardevoir's pretty good. It has a lot of upsides to it, especially with Ray coming in the format. I think it has a pretty good matchup versus Ray because you really don't need much to beat Ray. And then its Zoroark matchups are like okay. Twilight is pretty insane attack against like any Zoroark disruption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said straight Gardevoir. Are you thinking of another Gardevoir variant, or is it just?
I mean,
like...
it could Guardy Zoroark as well.
Okay.
Is like another deck that you could potentially be talking about.
Okay. Do you think that has any place in the meta?
I don't know. I haven't played it.
Okay.
I just didn't know what you were asking.
Pram, what do you think of Guardian?
I haven't played any with it, but it seems good. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say about Guardian just because I haven't played much with it. But I mean, it seems fine. Like it seems like it beats Ray. Twilight's always been good against Gardevoir, and Macargo struggles versus anything that can energy accelerate sometimes. So, especially it has Gallade, so it's like, and they have Field Blower, so they're just like a knockout. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tord, what are your thoughts on that, on Guardian?
I still don't think it beats Buzzwole really. And if you play the aggressive version of Rayquaza, then yes, they one-shot you for 1 energy. But if Ray gets like 1, 2, 3 price lead before you start one-shotting them, and you play the fast version, it's really easy to just, okay, you take a knockout, you take the knockout back. If you take a knockout back. Like it's like you don't only remove 2 energies, and because you just rescue search back to Ray, and then attach one from hand, so you really only 1 energy in minus, and like it's so easy to just fill your field with energies again as Ray and just knock it right back out. So even though it looks tanky and one-shots you like easily, it's still a stage 2, so there's still a lot of cards you need to think about that as well. So I don't really think it's a good counter. It really seems kind of mediocre when it loses to both the aggressive versions, or like both the aggro decks in format right now, which are Buzzwole and Ray.
All right, Mikey, talk to us about Ray. Guardian.
Guardy. Yeah. So a couple things. So the first thing is, I remember I was talking to Pram after NAIC, and he like turns to me, he like comes over to me, he's like, Mikey, you got to make day 2 again. You cannot play Gardevoir at Worlds. He's like, if you make day 2, you can do it. Do whatever you want, but you can't play it day 1. And so since then, I've been trying to find stuff better than Guardy. And also, I also kind of had the same thought that like Guardy would have pretty good matchups. Like once the Zoroark control deck did really well, and Rayquaza coming out. But I kind of agree with Tord that the Rayquaza matchup's not as good as I thought it would be. I don't know. It's like 50-50-ish. Like sometimes you just get a couple Gardevoirs out and you kill them, but sometimes you just get rolled over. Especially if they play Wishful Baton and you don't have a field blower on the turn that you kill the Rayquaza, like then your Guardian's just getting one shot back for sure the next turn. So the Ray matchup is like still pretty close. If Zoroark Magcargo plays a Kukui, like you're actually unfavored against them because then they can one shot the Gallade. Yeah, that's also not as good of a matchup as I thought it would be. I beat it the first couple times that I played it, and then when we started playing it a little bit more, Zoroark Magcargo actually just started winning.
Really?
Because again, you're a stage 2 deck and they're a Zoroark deck, so like inherently, there's just going to be some games where they go like Guzma kill a Ralts, Guzma kill a Curlia, and you just can't keep up. So I played a bunch of games versus Zoroark Gardevoir as well. I think that matchup is pretty close to 50-50. And you're not like super unfavored against Buzzwole, but it's like a 40-60 matchup. Like it's not great. So I don't know if I'm taking 50-50s or worse against the top 4 decks, and I'm a stage 2 deck. I'd probably rather play something else. I think it's fine, but I don't think it's what I want to play.
Okay. So is there a good Beast Box deck at all? Pram, is there a good Beast Box deck?
No.
Tord, is there a good Beast Box deck?
No.
Mikey.
I haven't found one. Russell tells me that like Stakataka is pretty good, but I don't believe him.
It's not. It's not.
It's pretty good against spread. Joe.
No.
All right. Well, that's very sad. We saw a Hoopa spread deck make some noise at Worlds. Does Hoopa have a place in this format? Does Evil Tall Break have a place? Joe, what do you think?
Hoop is really bad. Like you just lose to a Ranger. Evil Tall Break, I don't think it's that good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think about a ringer. Okay, yeah, that's bad. Bram.
Yeah. I don't think it beats any of the Zoroark matchups. Like,
Okay.
Because of a Rangaroo. Like, even, oh man, you can even just start doing 60 Confuse on the Hoopa, and then they're just like, what do I do? It's real bad. Like, that one card just counters their entire deck. Like, you can run them out of resources, you can just actually just start attacking the Hoopas. It's like, it's real bad. And then they have to like flip to do like 80 damage and you just like ace a roll off. Just send it up again.
Okay.
Whatever.
Mikey or Tord, anything to add to that?
I think the Evil Tall deck's like pretty bad. I was pretty excited to add Shrine of Punishment to it, and then I went like 0-5 versus Zoroark Magcargo, and I was like, well, this deck sucks. So yeah, nothing to add there.
I mean, if you want an in-depth look at how Romaguro works against Evil Tall, you can watch the top 8 game of NA.
Yeah.
It's like the only chance is if you like prize a Rangaroo and then like Flare Grunt and like the Linklet and then like and then you don't draw them off like the prizes you do take. It's like that's like the only chance.
So so you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, and then like you just go, okay, we'll just play game 2. Oh, you win game 2. Oh, whatever.
That's what happened in Prem when you played Dustin in that tournament. That's kind of what happened, right? You prized a Rangaroo and it wasn't the first 3 prizes.
Yeah. I was like, man, maybe I should play Gladian. Yeah. Maybe I should play Gladian. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't sound too bad.
Actually, can I ask a question to Tord and Pram?
Absolutely.
What have you guys thought about playing a second Rangaroo in Zoroark Magcargo?
I've thought about it, but then I was like, if I'm gonna play a second Magcargo, I should just play a Gladian. Or not a Magcargo, a second Oranguru. A second Oranguru, I should just play a Gladian. Okay. Because then, at the very least, then I can, like, if I don't prize the Oranguru, I can at least fish out a one of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whereas, like, if I prize the Gladian and Oranguru is not prized, then it's like whatever.
Yeah.
Second Oranguru is okay, but like you don't really need it that much.
Yeah, like,
It's mainly because you don't want to price it, right? So
I was ready for Tor to be like, I'm playing 3.
yeah, because you cycle the one Oranguru over and over and over. So like that's where I'm like an actual Gladian would be better than a second Oranguru.
but the value though, if you play 3, you can rescue stretcher all 3 back.
That's right. Exactly.
That's true.
Busted. I'm not even playing Zoroark anymore, just quad Oranguru. That's
You can
good.
bridge it all 3 down again.
All right, great. So, so Greninja's the best deck in format. What's the anybody like Greninja for this tournament? Not would you play it, but is it pretty good for the tournament?
I played one game of it on PTCGO, and I immediately regretted queuing up with the deck. It was like I started Froakie, and then I got a Brooklet for another Froakie, and then I played a Cynthia and drew 4 Ultra Balls, and no energies, and my Tapu Lele was prized. So I was like, yeah sick deck.
Okay. So people have been talking about Bulu. It's really bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad.
Okay.
I've never been a fan of Bulu since its release.
Okay. Just making sure. All right.
I don't think Bulu beats any of the 4 decks. I don't think it beats Buzzwole, Rayquaza, or Zoroark. So.
Okay. All right. Do you, if you were giving advice to a player and this is their first Worlds, maybe they've just hit 400 points, what advice would you give them in terms of deck to play? Joe, why don't you start?
I mean, just play whatever you're comfortable playing with. That's about it.
All right, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, if you got most of your points with Zoroark decks, play a Zoroark deck. If you got most of your points with a Buzzwole deck, play a Buzzwole deck. Just kind of make the changes and play a bunch of games with them. If you're choosing between like Zoroark, Buzzwole, or Rayquaza, you're not going to make a bad choice, I don't think. So yeah, just play which one you have the most experience with.
Okay, Tord.
I will give them a speed rail list and say go hard, smash. Just they're so hard to mess up with that deck and just so strong. Like turn 2, you have 10 cards left and you just press that attack button, Guzma something, and let's go. Nothing to think about. Just take your prizes and win the game.
Pram.
Probably the easiest deck I ever seen.
All right, you're selling this to me here. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I like the Ray idea, but I generally go with just play with what you're comfortable with, like whatever you earned your invite with, as long as it's one of the top 4 decks. Like if you earned your invite with Greninja, please don't play that. But like if you're playing like one of the top 4s decks, and then like if you're not confident in like your in-game decision making, just play Ray.
Okay.
Yeah.
One other thing.
Go ahead.
Especially one of the things that Ray really has going for it at Worlds Day 1 in particular is that it's never going to tie, right? You're going to play 3 games really quickly, and Day 1 of Worlds, unless you plan to tie 3 times, like me and Pram that one year, tying is just as bad as losing. So it's good to pick a deck that won't tie very much.
Okay.
Yeah. I somehow tied 3 times with Night March, but that's not my fault. That's their fault.
Was that day 1?
That was day 1. Yeah.
Were you 5-0-3?
2016.
Yeah, me and Pram were 5-0-2 and got paired up last round, and I D'd to make it.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about the best deck that you will not play. Okay, Tord, why don't you start? What is the best deck that you will definitely not be playing at Worlds?
Ray.
Okay.
I can't do anything, any place. I have nothing to do, and it feels like a waste of me playing that deck.
Pram.
Probably won't play Zoroark Garb just because I don't like it. Like I could be convinced, but I'd rather let Jesus take the wheel with Ray than play a deck I don't like.
Joe.
I don't know, probably Ray as well. Yeah, Tord's right. It's just insanely linear.
Cool. Mike.
Yeah, I'm considering all 4 of the top decks right now. But I would say Ray is probably the last on my list for pretty similar reasons. And it also, I don't think, has a great Buzz matchup. So.
Okay. Last question, and then we will close. Oh, actually, sorry, I forgot one other one. So let's start with that. What do you expect to be the most played decks? Mike, you start.
You want like one deck that I think is going to be the most played?
Yes.
Zoroark Gardevoir.
Tord.
Ray and Zoroark.
Okay. Pram.
I think Zoroark is going to be the most played.
Joe.
A Zoroark variant. I'm not sure which one it could be. It's probably Zoroark Zoroark.
Okay. And I just forgotten my other question. So we'll just cut it there. Thank you guys for your time. But let's give shout outs. Joe, I think you have different shout outs now. Do you want to start?
Yeah, shout out to thedarkpatch.com. It's where I coach. You can purchase that. Follow me on Twitter, Joe Ruettiger. Follow me on Twitch. I stream sometimes, not often lately, but I do. Joe Ruettiger as well.
And I have your Twitter tags for all of you guys on screen. So, Pram, go ahead.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter. I tweet about tournaments and some random stuff sometimes. Come say hi if you see me. Thanks to ARG for sponsoring me. Thanks to TC Evolutions. They make really cool dice. If you don't have any, you like them, go buy some. Yeah, and see you guys at Worlds.
All right, Tord. Shout outs.
Shout out to Limitless, 8-Bit Planet, Friends, Family, and yeah, we'll see you all at Worlds.
And what was who's the last group you said?
I will see you all at Worlds.
No, before
Friends
that.
and family.
Oh,
Family.
I thought you said Pram's family. I was like, what?
Yeah. Hi, Mom.
Mikey, go ahead.
Shout out to Six Prizes. You can read articles on there and check out the podcast that I've been hosting for the last 6 to 8 months or so. Give it a listen, and I'd really appreciate it.
Okay. I remembered my last question, so we're going to do that. What percentage of decks for each day would you say are new decks that no one see or that are secret or unknown? Anybody can answer that.
Like
Played
10?
or qualified? Or qualified, like
Playing.
just played? Okay.
Yeah.
I'd say like 10% maybe that are like decks that are not. Wait, so are you saying like decks that are not like the big 4 or
No.
like just like just totally
Like off the wall decks.
they're like secret decks?
Yeah.
10% or less, I would say.
Okay. And if you feel more comfortable answering how many qualified.
I think like 5% played, and then like maybe 1% qualify.
Okay. So you better
Like
be confident.
maybe like their whole crew, like maybe one guy gets through.
Okay.
For day 2, it depends on day 1.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys so much, and that's it. Peace out. Shout out to my Ultra Ball patrons Sarah Beckwith, John Gilliman, Paul Semenko, and Brian C. And huge shout out to my Master Ball patrons Pokestats, Impulse Gaming, Jeremy Owings, Caleb Vance, and Dan Nelson. And congrats, Dan Nelson, again for winning the last drawing. Shout out to all of my patrons, and of course, to my viewers and subscribers like yourself. Thank you.